Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of making the Vegtan hip bag, and we are going to open up straight away by focusing on making that strap, or finishing the strap here. I am going to be using a small buckle, and you'll see me come back to this later on in the video. The first strap I made, I just punched one small simple hole in the buckle, and you'll see that it works okay, but I end up finding that it just doesn't hold the buckle properly. So I come back to it a bit later in the video and improve upon it. I'm using some water-based glue, I believe. And yeah, so make sure this is something a mistake I was making when I was starting off, and a mistake I still make today. Two things to bear in mind when using glue. First of all, read the instructions, because most of them will tell you to wait, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes before you actually, let the glue dry, and then wait 10 or 20 minutes, and then you can apply the two pieces together. That's the first piece of advice, because I was not doing that when I started off, and I couldn't understand why pieces never seemed to be gluing up properly. The second piece of advice, do not put too much on. Honestly, guys, seriously, this is an issue, a big issue I've been having, and I still have, is that I've been putting too much glue on most of my projects, and it makes burnishing really hard because the glue tends to get in the way of the burnishing if there's too much on it. So grab something you can use to scrape off the excess glue, and you'll find that that really helps getting a brilliant edge. And those are two tips that I learned the hard way, and I hope these tips help you. Wait before you're sticking two pieces together, and don't put too much glue. We're taking a first look at one of the sides. It's been stitched up, and it's really tough to stitch. As you can see, that leather has been pushed into the side there, and stitching up this took me much longer than I expected. Now, two things to bear in mind here. First of all, that I probably wouldn't do the same design for the second bag. I'll probably make it in a way that it's easier to stitch. But it looks awesome, and it's incredibly sturdy. I just love the feel of it. I just love the look of it. It's great. Now, just to show you, I'm going to press down on this leather quite hard, and you can see how resistant this corner is. And it gives the whole bag a real solid feeling to it, and it means that I am not worried about anything that's inside this bag being hit around, and it really does give it a solidity. But stitching was a pain, so instead of having the rounded corners that I have here, in the next bag I'm going to be trying out something more boxy, something a bit more classic, I'd say. And well, we'll see. I'll let you know on Instagram, guys, if that works out for me. But this is the result after the two sides have been stitched. Loving the shape, loving the feel of it, but as you can see, that clasp in the middle, I just don't like the way it's not straight. It's annoying me profoundly. I don't like it. I mean, I'm just checking to see if the bag is closing okay, and yes, that's okay. I mean, the strap could be longer. There are things I can improve upon, that is absolutely certain. But so far the bag is looking great, and as you can see, the 3mm thick leather is holding gorgeously. It's just feeling great, it just looks great, and I'm loving that leather so far. But that clasp really got on my nerves. So after fiddling around, and after finishing my installation here, because I didn't really decide on changing it yet, it took me a couple of days before I came back to this project and changed that clasp. So in the meantime, I did actually carry on thinking, well, I'll get used to the clasp, or well, it's fine, no one will notice, and so for whatever. So I carried on thinking, yeah, okay, here we go. So punch a hole for the clasp to close in and get that corner. Since this video, I have bought a small cheapo set off Amazon of little, I don't know, knife thingies. They're beveled and they're rounded out, and it helps me cut edges nicely on the edges of belts and things like this, and straps. But in this video, and you can definitely do this yourself, just use maybe anything you might find around the house that's rounded off. So just use a coin maybe. There's something that many people use to scribe a line around and make the tip of your belt, or just cut it the way you feel like it. Again, I'm burnishing the edges using Tokonol or gum trag, giving it a nice little burnished look. And yeah, so as I said, a couple of days later, came back and decided I wanted to change the strap. I did not like the way this was holding and wanted to go do it properly. And well, this is one of the many times I realized just how strong these stitchings are. Saddle stitching has always been known to be one of the best forms of stitching, and I'm using 0.8mm polyester waxed thread, and it's really tough. Even cutting it with scissors and a scalpel was not really making this job any easier, but eventually got through that, got rid of that excess string, excess wire, and went ahead on improving this clasp, of improving how the mechanism was fitting, and did it properly, if I may say so myself. So first of all, make sure you cut a larger slit, and secondly, add in a small loop of leather so that the whole thing sits much better and flush to the bag. And it just looks so much better. Don't ask me why there is a bell on my hand. That is my girlfriend. Don't ask me why. So it just looks so much better done properly. And to be honest, I swear, guys, no more shortcuts in adding clasps, because in the end, it's not worth the hassle, and it looks so much better like this. It's so much more functional, so much easier to open and close. It's just not worth trying to go the fast route. Now let's focus on making the straps. I'm going to be going quite fast here, but basically this is 1.2mm leather, so about a bit less than half the thickness of the previous leather, and I've cut two 3cm long or wide straps out of the piece of leather I had. Now the piece of leather I had on hand was not necessarily the longest, so I've had to improvise a bit, but once those two sides are cut, I then glued them together and did basically the same dye process as on the previous one, which is add in a lot of neatsfoot oil and then dye it with a mixture of neatsfoot oil and Fiebing's Pro dye to make sure that the dye does not go on in a uniform fashion. Again, your mileage will vary if you try this at home, because this is a very experimental process, and it's the dye plus the oils do not mix. Therefore, the dye goes on in a very weird fashion, and I tried to get it as close as I could to the previous bag, and I do apologize for the changing in light. I'm doing this in my kitchen, and obviously the lighting outside has a huge impact on the lighting inside. So, as I mentioned, the strip of leather I had was not long enough to make a full strap, so I go ahead and make a shoulder pad as well. And this shoulder pad is going to make sure that added to the two strips of leather, or added to the strip of leather I had cut in half, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second, it will give me a long enough strap, as well as add in a small detail that I find really nice and quirky on the bag, which is a shoulder strap or a shoulder pad that is of the same leather as the bag, and it sort of ties the whole thing together. Because the strap was not as closely dyed as the bag, was not exactly the same dye pattern as the bag, I found that this really does help tie the whole thing in and make it look more uniform. And so once this is done, again, go ahead and burnish all the corners. This is not, by the way, a pattern that I found online or anything. This is a pattern I created of something I already had. I just tried to simulate what it looked like laid flat and how it would feel on the shoulder, to see if I could come up with something that felt roughly the same. And to be honest, I'm very happy with the result. Burnishing again, all the straps, all the corners, lots of burnishing, lots of preparation, lots of all this stuff to get done. But once that is all done, we'll be able to have a look at the bag. But before that, guys, before we take a look at the bag, bear in mind that I do this as a hobby, and any help from you guys is really hugely appreciated. Hitting the subscribe button is a great way of showing your support, but you can also go and check out the links in the description below to grab some of these card holders, which I make on my website. It's a great way of giving yourself a nice little treat or a present, or even helping a present to a friend. The second way of helping me out is by using my Amazon link as well. Anything you buy off Amazon through my link, I get a small kickback, and that really does help me. I've got over there, I've set up Amazon to show you the list of tools that I use, so go and check those out, as well as tools I recommend for people who want to get into leathercraft, which is a great craft. The last thing I'd like to point out, though, is that these card holders, I've been using mine for the last 6 months, and I absolutely love it. It's brought on a gorgeous patina, and I wouldn't get rid of it. It can take about 12 or 15 cards easily and has place to spare for more. So go ahead and check those out. That really helps me out, guys. That's a huge, huge thanks. Now let's take a look at the final bag reveal. Ta-da! I am so pleased with how this turned out. I've been using it as much as I possibly can, and I just love it. It's the perfect form factor for me. Not too big, not too small. Carries maybe one book, bits and bobs, and it carries a camera quite happily. And I just absolutely love it. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Like everything I've been doing so far on my channel, it's far from perfect. There are so many things I could be improving, but I learn on every step of the way, every single time I make something, and I'm so happy with the results here, guys. As I mentioned, the sides are really strong and sturdy because of that thickness. It's giving that bottom portion a really good hold, and it just doesn't budge. It's gorgeous leather. I'm loving the finish on this, on the dye. I'm loving the way that my homemade polish really brings out the colors. I'm loving the way the strap works. I'm loving everything about it. Yes, there are things I could be improving upon it. Yes, there are things that I may have botched throughout the process, but so far, so happy with it. So thanks a lot, guys, for coming along with me on this amazing journey. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope this is giving you inspiration to go out and make your own projects. In the meantime, I'd really like to encourage you to hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any of my future videos. And yeah, so a huge thank you, guys, and I'll see you next time for the next project. Thanks and bye-bye.